5Options show, where every week Marta and Anna abandon their 5 children, 2 partners and 1 cat to make a show especially for you. An artist, a challenge, a bullshit, a wisdom and a surprise. Tune in and feel the magic of 5.
Hello everyone, this is Marta.
And this is Anna.
And this is You've Got 5 Options show. And it's Corona times, so nothing is normal. Therefore, instead of giving you part 2 of the part 1 that we have done last time, we are just simply gonna do something different.
Yeah, actually, guys, if you are our regular listeners, you know that we decided to tackle the 5 most common challenges that people might have in those coronavirus times. If you are interested about listening to our thoughts on the first 2 challenges, which were, Marta, what that was?
Well, I know that one of them was about protesting when you cannot protest.
And the other one was about sending your children to school, yay or nay.
Yes, and that one was actually the vast majority of the time.
That is correct. So we have covered those 2 challenges, and if you would like to listen to them, please revisit our podcast page, the 5options.com 5 as a number, and you can get that part 1. However, the next 2 episodes are dedicated to our listeners. That's why we decided to make a break from solving these challenges that we have come up with and solve an actual challenge that came up from our listener.
Yes, because all the other shows, they are not dedicated to our listeners.
At all. It's
At
us
all.
rambling about our life.
No, but the thing is that we have received a challenge, and then we have also received a number of questions from our followers and listeners and friends of the show.
And the episode with the questions you were able to listen to last week. And today we are focusing on the challenge.
Yes. So should we just get crazy and go for it?
Yes, let's get crazy and go for the challenge of the week.
Supermoon music.
A very challenging challenge of the week.
Was that like a secret message that the challenge comes from Supermoon?
I am not sure. I think it could have been a shameless pun just to remind people that there is something that is called supermoon music. Or it could have been Dennis and his naughty little fingers pressing the wrong button.
We'll never know.
We will never know. We will never know. But now we had the right jingle and we do have a challenge. Marta, do we know from whom the challenge is coming from?
Actually, I will tell you something, guys. The challenge comes from someone that is a friend of the show.
Okay.
However, that person really wanted to stay anonymous.
Okay.
And therefore, I have given the name Leslie.
Leslie.
Yes.
Like Leslie Nielsen?
No, like Leslie Parrish.
Who is Leslie Parrish?
You don't know? I don't know who is Leslie Nielsen, so we are even.
Well, Leslie Nielsen is a great actor that was playing in Naked Gun. Okay, I am alone here. Denise, have you ever seen Naked Gun?
I have seen Naked Gun.
You did?
Yes.
Who is Leslie Parrish? Did you invented that?
No. It's it's a character in a book that is called A Bridge Across Forever of one of my favorite writers, Richard Bach. And as far as I understand, if I'm not wrong, if it's not all made up, because it's a little bit kind of mixed up between the real life and fiction, it's his wife, and she used to be an actress. We can Google her and then know if she's like a real person.
Is that the person who sent us the challenge?
No, that's just a name, Leslie. You asked me why Leslie, and I said because of Leslie Parrish. Yeah, she exists.
Okay.
She is an American actress, and she's beautiful. Whoa, look at her.
Okay, listen to us, our dear anonymous challenge provider. For this hour, you have taken an identity of an extremely attractive, gorgeous woman. So if you are a guy, then enjoy it.
And also, I will tell you that apart from she's a really beautiful actress and writes amazing books together with her husband, she's also an activist, an environmentalist, a writer, and a producer. So not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not
bad at all.
But we got a little bit sidetracked here. Surprise, surprise.
No, that never happens.
Let's go ahead and read the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing in this world is right now interesting unless it's related to pandemic. The challenge is...
I thought that you start to sing Nothing Compares to You. And I'm like, Marta, nothing. And I was like, I was ready to take this compliment and it did not happen.
Excusez-moi.
But guys, I will be honest with you, Marta. You are right. It's very difficult to create a content that is interesting people outside of the realm of pandemic. And I have read some articles and look at some statistics, and averagely 20% of podcast downloads have, they dropped 20% since the pandemics. So I would say it's a difficult time for people working with podcasts, and maybe at the radio, not necessarily. If you are providing coronavirus updates, then probably people are listening. Yeah, so we decided to go with the spirit of our times.
Yes. So here it comes. The whole pandemic situation has been going on for a while now, and I am really struggling to find myself in this situation. The information from mainstream media and politics just does not add up. And it's often so contradictory that it just makes no logical sense. I see videos of anyone questioning mainstream strategies disappearing, even when the video comes from doctors proposing for the medical community to come together to become better at treating the COVID-19 patients. And it just scares me. How can freedom of speech be violated such a big time, and how come no one is doing anything about that? I see friends sharing their concerns about their kids being frightened to go to school because other kids come too close to them, when the risk for a child dying from COVID-19 is way lower than from riding a bike or even getting a regular season flu. I feel very confused about what is really going on. I feel overwhelmed, emotionally affected, often depressed, and the worst of all is that I don't feel free to say what I think. How the hell do I find myself in all that mess and thrive? So...
that is a tough challenge, I have to say. And I have to say that I'm not surprised that the person wanted to stay anonymous.
Yeah, that's the main thing, that I can, if the person is already struggling the most with being able to speak her, Leslie's mind, I can understand why she would like to stay anonymous in that.
Yeah, I'm also curious why I didn't got that challenge and you did. Maybe I'm not trustworthy.
I think it was just probably, well, first of all, I will make an official statement. Anna is trustworthy.
Thank you. I only seem to be crazy. I'm
She
really
also
rational.
She also is crazy.
Why are you spoiling a perfectly good statement?
You are crazy. That's a fact. And we can take this example later when we are talking about how to recognize the truth.
Okay.
So, okay.
Okay.
Well, I really understand the challenge, and I have to say that I recognize parts of it for myself too. I recognize it for many of my friends and clients with whom I have been talking in the last 6 weeks, or however it's been going on. I have no idea. I'm lost. I don't know. Like, is it May already? So it's like,
it is 1st of May today.
Yeah.
It's like, is it Friday? Is it Easter? What is it?
What year is it?
What
right?
year is it?
So I definitely recognize this. And that's why, first of all, I'm grateful for that challenge. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I really hope that we can bring some insights that can be helpful for people who are struggling in those times.
Yeah.
So, not to shock you, because I think we have enough shock in this life, I have prepared 5 of something. 5.
Really?
Yes.
5.
5 areas to look at when trying to find yourself in those weird times and thriving, because I think that's also the exact question. How do I find myself in all that mess and thrive? So I will just tell you what those are, and then we will dig into them.
Sure.
So the first one is upgrade your self-care. The first thing and the absolute thing is to take care of yourself really, really well. And I will come up with a cliche here. You know, the world needs you. The world needs each and every single person, and we need people thriving. So taking care of yourself is absolutely the most important thing. Then the second thing we will look into is recognizing the truth. In fact, there is a lot of misleading, contradicting, crazy information out there, and how to recognize your truth in it. Then we will talk about fears, and I call it love up your fears. Probably people will think I'm crazy too now. And the next thing is to show and share love. And the last thing will be about being creative. So, these are the 5 areas that we will look into. And the first one is upgrading your self-care. We have now, depending on which country we are in, we have spent 8 weeks, 6 weeks, however many weeks, in more or less lockdown, quarantine. In some countries, people are locked down completely in their apartments. They can maybe leave once a week to go and buy something, or maybe they don't even do that. Maybe they order food to arrive at their place. I know people who have not been leaving their houses at all. Now the time is very long for doing that. That is okay to do a couple of weeks, but now we are starting to be in a place of couple of months. And how do you really take care of yourself in such situation? I always like to look at us humans as, let's say, as beings that need to look at 4 areas for the well-being. It's the physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, and spiritual well-being. So in order to be able to find yourself, in order to be able to recognize your truth and be able to do anything about that, you need to be at least in a fair level of well-being. That's why I am bringing it as the first thing. And in those times, it's not an easy thing. I mean, if you're locked down at home, even physical well-being, even, doing your physical activity can be a big challenge. So here, I mean, I have seen crazy stuff all the way from spilling oil on the floor and slippering with the feet, like it was, this machine on the gym where you like the place where you just walk.
Yeah.
So people like spill the oil on the floor so that their feet slipper on the floor so that they can keep on walking. Yes, I have seen many of those videos. People are trying to be creative. I mean, I bought an indoors trampoline.
Yeah.
And before it was clear whether in Denmark the lockdown will be full or if we will be allowed to go outside, I've shared that here on the radio. Before we started to ramp up on toilet paper, we first ramped up on the trampoline. And I did jump for 5 weeks on that trampoline. And it's been extremely important for me in dealing with my own anxieties, fears, and taking care of my body. That was a paramount. I was just putting my favorite music and just, jumping in order to take care of my body, and also very much of my spirit, very much of my mental health as well. So it's very important to find whatever works for you. I mean, people like different things. Some people are, I guess, if you are like in a country like Denmark, you can go outside a lot.
Yeah.
You can spend a lot of time outside, you can run, you can do a lot of things, and it's very important. Mm-hmm. When it comes to your mental and emotional well-being, first of all, you mentioned here that you feel overwhelmed, emotionally affected, often depressed. So I would say that in such situation, it's very important to reach out for help. So all the way from reaching out to friends and family, if you have some people who will not freak out, but will actually be of support, it's very important to reach out. And if you feel that it's getting too dark, reach out for professional help too. There are actually free services. I have seen on Facebook that there are free services where you can call and get support. And we can include such a number for Denmark in our show notes. But it's very important not to be ashamed and simply call and ask for help if it gets too dark. And the last part, which I also always like to look at, as I believe that we are more than our body, mind, and emotions. I also believe that we are a part of a greater consciousness. And I do believe that in those crazy times, it is beneficial to reach out to whatever it is that you believe that is higher than yourself, and find your comfort, consolation in that. And people can do so many different things. I mean, there are religious people who can turn to God. There are people who don't have any religion and are more into spirituality, non-religiously bound spirituality. There are some people for whom it just comes with nature. Going outside, hugging a tree, just recognizing that you are a part of something bigger than you, meaning nature. It is very individual. But in order to thrive, in my personal view, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, the 4 of them need to be in balance. If one of them is out of balance, it's very difficult to stay in a good well-being. And Anna, question to you, and Dennis, you can also prepare. That question will come to
mentally,
you too.
physically, and spiritually.
How do you take care of your well-being in those difficult times?
Well, Marta, as you mentioned, we are in Denmark. Here, the lockdown rules are not so strict. So actually, we are able to leave the house if we want to. And it's not limited only to going to a shop. You can go for a walk. You can go for a run. You can basically, I don't know how it is in Aarhus right now, but in Vaila, basically, the city is open. The only closed places right now are the restaurants and the shopping mall. Although I would say shopping mall for a Danish reality, because it's not a ginormous shopping mall, but it's also closed, and the cinema. The rest of the life around starts to go back to normal, I would say. However, before we had everything closed, and yet we still could leave the house. So I actually was going outside. I have a small baby, so I actually do have to go for a walk with her. And going for a walk, and we were going for long walks. We were going to the seaside, we were going in the forest. So I was definitely going out. And I have to tell you something, guys, that actually when you are in nature for a longer time, and I will not make a super spiritual, thing out of it right now. I will just say when you are in nature, there is something very strange happening, at least with me. especially now that we are on the brink of 2 seasons. So we are leaving the winter behind and we are entering the spring. Being in a forest or at the seaside and hearing birds singing and seeing how the leaves are getting green and all of those things gives personally me some sort of tranquility, because I realized that the world is spinning as it was. Things are going through. They are, it's like I forget about this whole virus thing when I'm in the nature, because there is no effect on nature. Everything is exactly as it was, and it's beautiful. So I believe this is a double benefit, because not only you actually do get some fresh air and sunlight, which is very important for us humans. We are actually not a species that is supposed to be closed, locked down in cubicles. We are supposed to, that's how we evolved. We were always outside. So not only physically this is good, but also mentally, I believe, because you can also gain some sort of a perspective and also forget about the things that are happening in our world. And our world seems to be a very dangerous place. But when you go to the forest, of course, if you have some fears like, okay, the wolf will attack me, I get it. You might be a tiny bit afraid. But when you are in a forest and there are just like frogs and little mice or whatever, it all looks normal and beautiful, and there is a very calming effect for people to be grounded and see, okay, not everything is falling apart. Actually, only our human realm is falling apart. The rest stays there, so you can ground yourself in that reality. So that's definitely that thing. And then another thing, I was making some kind of a news and social media detox from time to time, although I believe I started to be more resistant to many of the news I'm reading. But if you are a type of a person that is getting scared easily, and if you see that while you read more and more and more, you feel more confused, more helpless, and more scared, maybe it's a good idea to turn off TV and stop just listening to the news for a while, because I really don't believe that if you will not see the news, something big will pass you by. Things will happen if you are or are not reading the news. So if you see that you are extremely sensitive for this type of information, maybe it's good to, and I know personally people who consciously decided to avoid news because they were like, enough. It's like, especially that, I'm sorry to say, but some of the mainstream media, especially newspapers, are doing so many clickbait articles, titles, and there is really no point to just add to your own psychosis. So that would definitely be something that I would advise. I was doing that myself sometime, and I was forgetting that coronavirus exists.
What about you, Dennis? How are you taking care of yourself?
By following Anna's example and not watching the news, for example. I rarely watch the news on TV. They do have a tendency, and no matter what kind of media, they focus on something that it has a name now, clickbait, but it's always been there. It's just how to get a scoop. And how to get a scoop, and right now it's body bags, and it's things that do scare a lot of people. So you have to realize that, okay, we have a pandemic. It's not the Black Plague. People are dying, but not like 20% of the world's population, like previous really, 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 really serious pandemics. So turn off the news and be real. Go to the forest. Relax.
Yeah,
It'll pass.
I do find it myself also that you can actually you can exercise the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual balance in a forest. Absolutely.
Turn off social media.
Yeah.
Turn off the news. I mean, there's nothing happening today that you weren't told yesterday. It's just numbers now. And one day when it's all over, you'll know.
Yeah.
So there's really no need for everybody to follow it every step of the way and know exactly how many people died today and exactly how many people were tested today and all the political riffraff surrounding it. It's really irrelevant. And it only adds to stress. And it only adds to division, because there's media and there's right-wing media and left-wing media and center media and polar opposites. And if you listen to it as dogma, you will just get a divided population.
And I think that this is a very good place to move from here to the second point, which was about recognizing the truth. Because that's so true what you, Dennis, said. If you start listening to news and follow some politically related news, you will find out that there is still quite a lot of differentiation.
Quite a lot of.
And quite, also depending on the country where the medical or political advice come from. I mean, all the way from like Sweden. We are not doing any lockdown and we are just following common sense and, we are trusting people to take care of themselves and so on, to all the way to Spain or Italy, where we are locking everyone down and no one is allowed to leave, or even China, like the news were saying that the door were cemented so that people don't go out of of their houses. So, already there the strategies differ quite a lot. And then additionally, we all know that YouTube and Facebook have started to delete anything that is, I guess, in their opinion, because I don't even know how they do it.
I will tell you how they do it. So basically, both Facebook and YouTube and Google, because that affects also the search, have made a statement where they said that they will remove any misinformation about the pandemic, and by misinformation they treat any statements that go against World Health Organization official position. That's basically their premise. So if someone says something that is not aligned with what World Health Organization is saying this week, because they changed their mind and they changed their statement. So basically, only World Health Organization has a right to be wrong. That's how I see it, because they are only humans and the new things are coming out every week. So basically, they have already contradicted their own statements dozens of times. But that's how the decisions are made. And the premise is that misinformation could lead to the danger of safety, and the assessment is done based on how dangerous the information can be and how many people could hear or read that information. That's how they make their assessment of what to take down. That's why, for instance, small creators are not taken down yet, because they don't even bother yet, or they actually assess that this person, let's say, have 10,000 views. That's not really dangerous. But if someone has 2 million views, then they consider that dangerous. And the danger level is based on their assumption of what would happen if those people would follow the advices in that specific video or article.
So basically what we know is that even now, where we have strict censorship that is following World Health Organization, we know that their truth keeps on changing all the time.
Yes.
And that shows us that there is not one truth. That we are learning, that we are growing, we are making mistakes, And in all that, I do not believe that there is a possibility where there could be one truth that everyone could believe in. I do believe that the truth is something that people in those times need to find in themselves. And now let's talk about it a little bit. How do you find what is true to you?